documentary, huh? Mike Clark did a fantastic job. Oh, man. And we're going to hear more from him. But I got to tell you, it brought a tear to the eye of the shotgun. It really did. I mean, I get emotional when I watch his work. And, of course, being associated with Gary Goltz. What a terrific film that is.
Well, thank you.
Anyway, we have one of the, you saw John Locke, who played one of the officers of Highway Patrol. We have his son here, Rusty. Rusty Locke, please come up.
Rusty, please come up.
Now, Rusty has been in many 10-4 day parades with us, and we are so honored. Rusty, I'm going to hand you the mic.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys. Good to see you again. Hi, Gary. About the last 3 or 4 years, I've had the honor and privilege to be at 10-4, October 4th, and honor my dad and the show and the real men and women that do this today. It's been an absolute delight. I knew years ago when Dad used to be in the parade and ride in Gary's car next to him, and it was a great thrill to dress up as him and do it. And when he was young in the 50s, he came out from Florida to be an actor, and one of his first jobs was on Highway Patrol. Before Officer Garvey, they actually said, Locke, can you take that Highway Patrol motorcycle and take it out of the garage, take it down the street? And back in the day, you didn't say no to anything. You said, yes, I absolutely can, whether you could or not. So he get on this motorcycle, and it starts wobbling, a little more power than he expected, and goes, all which way. And they go, Locke, you said you could ride. And he goes, I can, give me another shot. And he did it. But eventually he did get to play Officer Garvey, and it was wonderful to see him then and now. So this has been a wonderful privilege. Thank you very much. 10-4, over and out.
Rusty Locke, everybody.
Hey.
Mike, why did you produce this documentary?
Oh, why?
It was for the money? Did you get about $30,000?
Well, actually, you were involved in this because you made me aware of the 10-4 parade.
Yeah.
You probably knew that I love the old shows and classic television.
I wanted you to be there.
And I actually went to one that you were appearing at, and I didn't talk to Gary that day, but I watched him work, and I watched the parade, and I like you, when you saw the 55 Buick, I was mesmerized, and it's a wonderful thing. So I took video, and Gary contacted me after I did that video and said he liked it and he would like to do more with me. So we've done some other projects, including some sample promos for the show for MeTV. And
those are great. I wish we could show those.
But I think the reason I did this is because it's a story of generosity and love. It's about his grandma and what he became because he wanted his grandma to feel safe, and that was the center of this story. It's about car restoration and toys and all that, but that's the center of the story, and the generosity of Gary in sharing this car with everybody, because I've been around with him wherever he goes. It makes people happy, and it brings good news to the world. And so I thought, this is great. I want to do a film about this. And I have no plans for this film other than we're going to put it up on the Highway Patrol website. I'm not taking it to film festivals or anything, but I think it's a good calling card for what Gary has done and how he shared this car with everybody. And so I see it as just a big positive.
It really is. And Tom, you were the one that introduced me to this guy.
I was working for Mayor Reardon at the time, and they had this parade, and he got hooked into this parade. And I remember turning left off Zoo Drive, and my jaw just dropped down. And said, I met the guy of my dreams.
Well,
in the sense that he loved Highway Patrol. Because the one thing about Highway Patrol, growing up in the Silver Lake District, going to John Marshall High School, they filmed all over in our neighborhoods. The Glendale train station, all things close. It was amazing to see Hillhurst, all the neighborhood streets. So to meet Gary was so special. And a few years after that 96 meeting, I was fortunate enough to get elected to the council, and I strongly believe in parades. I think it's important to celebrate. I strongly believe in museums. Give this museum another great big hand right now.
Absolutely.
Special museum.
And by the way, I remember I was in your office at City Hall, and you toured. You're so gracious. You toured me around everywhere, and you said, "Shotgun, I want you to come out. I want you to meet my $1-a-year man." And I said, "Okay." His name is Gary Goltz, and he's got the Highway Patrol car. Do you remember that?
I do remember that, and I forgot to pay him this year. I think I got it right here, Gary. There's your buck right there.
So that's how I met Gary Goltz.
Yeah, right.
And now I want to ask Gary. I want to ask you a question. What is your reaction to the Star in the Car documentary that Mike Clark has so wonderfully put together?
I'm just speechless. Believe it or not, it's the best thing, and he deserves all the credit. I really mean it. I was just a dumb actor in it. He told me what to do, how to do it. It was my first experience and what it's like to really do something like that. And without him, I wouldn't have been able to pull this off ever. He's the best.
Well, I mean, your car has been in many parades, been in many car shows, and it really is a standout. And Mike, I got a question for you. What was the hardest part of making this documentary?
Thank you for that question. As a matter of fact,
You wrote it for me.
Brett, I have a disc there labeled blooper. If you could just find it and put that in. Because the hardest part, actually, you know what? It wasn't that hard because Gary was very good to work with. He listened to me, and a lot of directors don't get that kind of cooperation. But he listened to me, and he had great ideas. He's a good producer on his own and suggested many of the things that we have in the video. But we worked very well together. In fact, when I talked to him on the phone the first time, he says, "Mike, I have a feeling we're going to be good friends." And that was true. But anyway, did we find that, Brett? Okay, go ahead and just put that in. I want to show you something. You remember the shot where the car drove over you? Well, this is the first take, and Gary. It's 10 seconds long. You don't even have to leave. Gary had a long, hard day at a car show, and then we went and shot this shot. This is take one of driving over the camera. And that's it. That's all there was.
Was that the end of your camera?
No, fortunately, he hit the cushion that the camera was sitting on, the GoPro. Look, there's your humiliation again. That was, and the other thing I'd like to mention is that wherever we went, we were hounded by the police, even though we were doing work for the police, kind of, promoting them. When we went up to the Hollywood sign, that was the day of the Hollywood Christmas parade, and I wanted to get that shot. And it's a difficult drive up there. I said, "Can the car handle it?" And Gary said, "Yeah, I drive it everywhere." So we got up there, and as many of you Los Angeles residents know, the neighbors up there don't like all that traffic near the Hollywood sign. They really resent it. So I sent Gary down the road to turn around and come back so that the Hollywood sign would be in the background. So Sarah, my photographer, by the way, today, and I were waiting for him to come back. What's taking him so long? And what I found out later is he had stopped and was talking to people through the car, 10-4 and all that stuff, and getting people to take pictures of him, and people were getting angry. So somebody obviously called the police. So he came through, we did the shot, and then he had to go all the way down the hill to even turn around. While he was down the hill, 2 motorcycle cops, LAPD, come roaring up the hill, hunting for bear. You could tell by looking at them that they were upset about something. But Gary wasn't there. He had already taken off down the hill. Yeah, so Sarah and I quietly packed up and stole away, and we did the rest of those shots. So the main problem here was just getting the stuff that we wanted. We didn't have filming permits, really. We didn't felt we needed them. Mm-hmm. But that was the hardest part.
Tom, how did you create 10-4 Day with Gary?
As Gary said there, when we met, it was very good. And you try to celebrate the city. I don't know if we ever got a permit in all the years that we've done it, but we've worked closely now with the police department. And will you get a permit? We've never got a permit. Yeah, so okay.
Well, they know you, though. You're the permit.
Okay, but
what are you talking about?
I'm a former guy. But Gary, I want to first give this to you for
Did he
your
win
wife
Queen
right
for a
there.
day?
Yeah, he's queen for the day on
Queen
Santa
for a
Monica.
day.
And I want to, Miss Strock, please stand up because this is royal. Oh, good job. Come over here and say a quick hello and tell everyone about your father, real quick.
And what's your name again?
Candy Strock.
Andy Strock.
My father was the pilot director of Highway Patrol. He was featured a little bit in the film.
Yes,
Thank
he
you so
was.
much.
Yeah, we saw him.
Thank you. And he did a lot of, he did Dragnet also. He was a pretty prominent director in the 50s and 60s, 70s too, actually. And he's no longer with us, but good friend with Gary Goltz. And also, he loved you. He always talked about Tom LaBonge and how wonderful
do.
he is. So I'm pretty familiar with these people.
Could I mention something, Tom?
Absolutely, Mike.
Candy, thank you for being here. Herb Strock brought such production value to Highway Patrol because it was an economically produced show, but it wasn't cheap. And that scene where the helicopter, and this is really crazy, was dropping the highway patrolman from the chopper into the truck, that was a Herb Strock idea in production because he loved those helicopters. But those episodes cost an extra $10,000, Gary? Yeah. But anyway, Herb brought sometimes really feature film quality stunts and action to Highway Patrol, and I didn't actually realize that because we used to watch it in our local stations in 16 millimeter film. But when they brought out the DVDs and it's 35 millimeter, then we got a great idea of the quality. And also, many people behind the scenes, in addition to the actors who went on to big careers, the people behind the scenes also went on to great things. Just for instance, the sound man on the first couple seasons was a guy named Quinn Martin, who many of you probably know.
Yeah.
4 years later was producing The Untouchables, and then The Fugitive, and The FBI, and Barnaby Jones, and all that. And there were lots of other examples of people who...
Streets of San Francisco, too.
Yeah, all that stuff. And he began on Highway Patrol. There were other people on the crew who also had stellar careers in the networks later on. Directors and writers, Gene Roddenberry. So there was more to this show than meets the eye. And when you look at it, you know, on a DVD and you have the opportunity to watch multiple episodes, you realize, they got something there. And that's why it was so successful.
You know, my agent, when we got to have a preview of this, and of course Gary said it. He said, "Now, don't show this to anybody." But when my agent saw Tony Pepper, who was a big fan of yours, and when he first saw it, he goes, "Oh my God," because we know Gary's got a little dough, and he must have spent about $30,000 giving it to Mike Clark to get this thing done. I called Mike. I said, "Man," because I know how expensive he is. I mean, he's a professional director producer. And I said, "Man, you made some nice dough from Gary, didn't you?" And you said,
Not a penny. Yeah, give me that dollar. This was a labor of, that's okay, I can't afford it, the taxes. This was a labor of love, and it's because Gary shares this car and does positive things, and that to me is worth $1 million.
It is. Hey, Gary, let me ask you something. Okay, go ahead, Tom.
And over these years now, the Hollywood Athletic League, Police Athletic, and others have done a great thing. So much too, Gary, out of your love. You know, you've been a fortunate son, thanks to your grandmother for what she and your parents taught you, to share with others and what this has been. Because it does. I've been behind him on Hollywood Boulevard, and he's never met. You think I'm bad? He's never met a microphone he doesn't like, and he's got that special one in his car. And the people love it, and it gives it an exciting time.
Hey, Gary, I got a question for you. I mean, the whole story was told in this documentary, but one thing was not covered, Mike. What does your wife think of this?
That's why I gave him flowers, Tom.
Oh, I see. Yeah, what does your wife think
She
of
actually loved the documentary, which that's an honest opinion from her.
Because we actually we spent hours and hours recording voiceovers, and we had to put Gary's dogs out, and I think your wife was a little irritated with us after a while.
Yeah, and I got another question, probably the wifey wants to know about. Did you really put $200,000 into that Buick?
I put his kids through college. Les, stand up.
Oh, Les. There's Les Randolph.
Yeah, one of the stars of the documentary.
Yeah, the guy who restored the car. Turn around.
By the way,
turn around. Les.
I loved your line in there when you put the for sale for $36,000, and then he wanted to write a check, and you go, "Are you nuts?"
He's still nuts. No, this car, it started out as a simple project, and this was back when cell phones were just coming alive, and I actually had to increase my minutes because he was calling me every 5 minutes. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. This car has been redone a couple times, and Gary and I have become really, really good friends. I've seen him do a lot of great things for people.
There's two people we should introduce.
Go for it.
Dr. Unger, where are you? Stand up, please. Come on up.
And while he's coming up, Marjorie, Les's wife, was our receptionist today. Thank
She
you,
did a
Marjorie.
great
You
job.
did a great
Very
job.
nice. Very nice, Marjorie.
We're going to post the pictures on your Facebook page.
Terrific. Dr. Unger Barry is the son of a gentleman, Babe Unger. Babe Unger was the president of Ziv Studios. When I first met him and he invited me up to his house, he had the complete scripts bound of every Ziv show, from Cisco Kid, Boston Blackie, all the way through Highway Patrol. And he gave me a card from Ziv from his dad, which is on my desk, and he's a great guy. I'm glad he's here. This is a tribute to his dad as well.
That's great.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
You actually got to hang around Ziv Studios then, huh?
Yeah, tell us about that.
I actually worked there when I was 14 and 15.
What high school did you go to?
Beverly Hills High School.
Go Normans.
Yeah.
Another person we should introduce back there, Nate Truman. Stand up, please.
Okay, thanks.
Nate Truman of Star Cars, who arranges that wonderful Hollywood Boulevard parade. That parade is incredible, and I got to ride in it with Gary, and I've never seen anything like that.
And I apologize for that Batmobile line. It was all his doing.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Flora. Where's Richard? We got a few Star Car members here. One of my annual things when I'm organizing the parade, several people will go, "How far away am I from Gary?" He's one of the louder participants. The sirens and the microphone. They're like, "Can I be a little further away from Gary this year?" But he adds a lot of color to our grand. And we just yesterday at this exact place, another one of our members, Paul Miller, had originally had a Mad Max Interceptor car, and he brought out all of the Mad Max, just crazy monster cars and everything like that. So we're going to try and include them this year and give a little big chunk to all the crazy Mad Max cars.
Cool. Your fellow council member Garcetti showed me a hat trick one time when I came down to visit you.
Oh, good. All right. Oh, good job. All right.
Uh-oh, look at that head.
Oh, that's slick.
Gary will be at the county fair this September.
That's right.
15, 16,
And while we're mentioning people,
Yeah.
One of the reasons we're here today is because I was hired by Rupert Hitzig to do a tape about this museum that features Stanley's history. Rupert, would you take a bow for that?
Absolutely.
That's Rupert Hitzig, producer extraordinaire. And the tape that we made, Rupert and I made,
Is that showing now?
It's playing on a loop.
Yeah,
inside the
Rupert told me
museum.
about that.
And you can learn about Stanley's story and all that stuff, but that's the connection, and that's why we're here.
We're going to wrap
And
it
I
up.
with our trivia challenge, right?
What was the hardest part in this documentary for you to make? What was the hardest, most difficult thing for you to create in this Gary Goltz Star in the Car video?
Well, I kind of addressed that earlier, because working with Gary is a pleasure.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
not hard, though.
Just the sheer number of hours on this, I think this was about a 60, 70-hour job. I really didn't keep track after a while, because, I do a lot of videos, and Rupert and I do videos together. But when you find something you really have an affinity for, it doesn't matter how long you're going to work on it. What matters is that you get the message across,
Right,
and
you
what a
did.
wonderful man he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Now listen. Right.
And relive it again. Here's
Yeah.
a question from the audience.
Yes. Here, let me get the mic over here. Any feedback?
Very quick
Come over here.
Talk about the
Stand up.
Foundation 1199 tournament.
Yeah, every March we do a tournament at my dojo, and a big portion of the collection goes to the 1199 Foundation, which Broderick Crawford's son, Kelly, also contributed a great deal when he was still alive.
Okay.
This goes to Gary, and I actually asked him privately too. Why did you use a hardtop for the car when in fact those Buicks were post two-door sedans?
You know,
Okay,
the
Gary.
truth be told is I never noticed it until I actually decided to do it, and by that time it was too late. I had the hardtop, and you know, when you think of all the people that have been in that car, Art Gilmore, Herb Strock drove it, Kelly Crawford went across country with me. That car has more highway patrol. Dan Aykroyd's been there. That car has more vintage highway patrol blood in it now. It's part of the history of the show.
You know, as a kid watching the show, and I'm a big fan of the Highway Patrol.
Bill Boyette drove it.
I was also wondering why did and your film, Mike, your film explains it explicitly. Why did I thought the California Highway Patrol would not allow you to use the star, so they had to come up with another logo. That was what I thought, and that was really incorrect, right, Gary?
No, they wanted it to be generic.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that. So that your documentary really brings that out. Yes.
Another thing, too, why would Jack Webb, why did he want...
Art Gilmore?
No, why did he want LAPD, you know, the whole thing? I mean, it's amazing that they had a difference of opinion on that, too.
Well,
'cause it
Jack
really
Webb was too busy to do a show about the California Highway.
I got it, but why, he went LAPD all the way. He has the badge. In fact, I topped 2 policemen walking out of the court. They had stopped him and asked him if they'd ever been to the top of City Hall.
Right.
And then I said, you have the greatest badge in the world, which they do. They have it, but you could go to the top of City Hall any day in the week.
Well, what's the badge number?
714.
That's right. Now,
Where did he go to high school?
Where Jack Webb go to high school?
Fairfax?
Belmont.
Oh, Bill. Okay, I have a question. In some of the new shows that we watch on television, at NCIS Los Angeles and SWAT, some of the shows, if you look at the badges, and SWAT is LAPD SWAT. But if you look at the badges like I do, it's not the LAPD badge. Why?
They changed that years ago for some city attorney.
I think, you know what I think it is? I think LAPD wants some dough if you're going to use their badge.
No, I don't think so.
You
That's
don't think
Chicago. That's Chicago. I do like that Chicago sergeant there.
Well, I guess that's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute, you got one
Wait
more?
a minute, one more point. As you're driving home, remember, it isn't the clown that kills, it's the driver. No matter how new, the safest device in your car is you.
Also, remember one thing.
Leave your blood at the Red Cross, not on the highway.
10-4, everybody.